Carl Canedy, a drummer, writer, producer, and now a published author and a heavy metal guy, but not just heavy metal.
Let's see. We'll just jump right in. Looking back on your career, are there any moments or achievements that you hold particularly close to your heart? And if so, why?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know if I have a short answer for that. They're always, we're talking decades. Like I say to my daughter, it'll be weird for you one day because you'll look back at your life in decades like I do. Like, oh, this decade, that decade ago. It's a really weird feeling to look at your life in decades. But I know one of the highlights was I've always been a songwriter from early on. And Ronnie Dio coming in to sing a song that I wrote was clearly a high point in my career. Just watching him, he was such a great guy, such a smart guy. And he was a legend. And so he came in and he was so humble, and he would listen to my demo with me singing on it, which was, talk about humiliating. And he'd listen to it, and then he would,
right.
And he would say, Carl, do you mind if I change this just a little bit here? I'm like, you have carte blanche, Ronnie, whatever you want to do. But he was so respectful and so just such a great, great guy. And it was just an honor what he did with the code. And so the fact that it kind of validated me as a songwriter in my mind, not to anybody else, but to my mind, like, okay, I've actually written a song that Ronnie has sung, and that was just incredible. It was very kind of David, because Ronnie would have sung 2 of David's songs, but David felt that my song was one that Ronnie would be suited for.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. As you continue to age, like all doing, what legacy do you hope to leave behind as a metal musician, and how do you want to be remembered by future fans or musicians?
That's another really great question. And of course, the flippant answer would be, legendary. They're just in awe every decade. Everybody who listens, all the new fans who find it, they go, "Oh my God, most incredible!" But I look at my life as it's been a progression. It's been a series of efforts, and some of them have come to fruition. But for the most part, I've been happy with all the projects I've done, even the ones that weren't very successful. But I think the biggest thing is writing my book, which I thought would take 2 months, and because I dictated it, and Philip Doc Harrington was transcribing it. And I thought, well, it'll be two months at the most. I'll just talk into my recorder and send it off to him, and he'll transcribe it, and it'll be done. In 2 months, it took 2 years. So it was a daunting task. And, I'm not sure, I'm not telling you anything, how the process is. And so,
oh yeah,
but I did it for my daughter. My daughter would say all the time, every time you talk about your childhood, the stories are so sad. And I thought, I can't leave her with that, because that's not really what my life has been about. My early childhood was maybe less than great, but it's that way for so many of us. My story is really that much different from many other people. So I think that's really it. Leaving it for my granddaughter and for my daughter. Now she has it, and it's the whole story in my words, and she has the audio recordings as well. And I'm about to start my audio book, so that'll be that book into an audio file. So I think that was probably the biggest accomplishment. That, and the fact that as a dad, I paid attention, and my daughter is such a great woman, and I'm really proud of it.
That's the best, more than anything else, right? That's great.
It is. Not that I can take all the credit, but I take a lot of it. I was with her all the time.
All right. So looking back on your career, then, is there anything you wish you had done differently, or any regrets you have as far as being a musician?
I want to say no, but no would not be a really totally truthful answer, because there's always something you look back on, especially Monday morning quarterbacking. You go, well, you know what? We could have done, if I had maybe done this differently. I mean, and there's some things that I laugh at, like doing Harry Chapin. When Harry Chapin, Ron Palmer, and John Wallace with Harry Chapin, and Ron Palmer did a demo, and Joe Leo brought me in, and I played drums on the demo. Excuse me. And I got to be friends with those guys, and I really liked them a lot. And And so I would go to Harry Chapin shows and see them, and even private parties for Harry of a birthday party. And, I would go when Harry was doing solo things. I would go and see Harry backstage, say hi, and watch the show. So one day they said to me, "We're thinking of adding a drummer. Would you like to audition?" And I went, "I'm a heavy metal drummer. No, thanks." Like, what was I thinking? The doors that would have opened for me at the time. And, but I wasn't thinking that way. So, I mean, it's not that it's a regret. I find it comical because I had to make my own path differently. And I would have been in the New York scene and would have met a lot of record people and concert promoters and just different musicians. So, but I look at that and I think, when you're young, and it wasn't that I was so arrogant. It wasn't that I loved Harry's music. I bought everything and listened to it, but I didn't think I was a fit. I'm a rock drummer. I'm a heavy drummer. That's what I want to do. And for me, if I didn't play my drums at least for 5 or 6 hours a day, bashing the shit out of my drums, I don't know if I can say that, sorry, but bashing the hell out of my drums, it didn't feel right to me. So I thought, well, if I were playing in Harry Chapin, and who knows if I would have gotten the audition. That's an assumption that I'm making, that I even would have gotten past the audition process. But nonetheless, it's comical when I look back at it going, God, what were you thinking? Like, arrogant, just didn't think it through, pal. But, so, I have, in terms of regrets, some things I look back on, but no, I really don't. And I'm really glad that I don't, because I see my friends who have regrets and they're bitter, and I'm happy. So as happy as I can be.
Hey, this is Dewey Halpus, host of Peer Pleasure on the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. Join me each week as I explore another long-form conversation with one of your favorite musicians, actors, comedians, or creatives. From Chino Moreno of the Deftones, John Gorley of Portugal the Man, to Fat Mike from NoFX and Ian MacKaye from Fugazi and Minor Threat, we go all over the map. From Fall Out Boy to Slayer, Peer Pleasure has it all. Check us out now on Sound Talent Media.
All right, so what role do you think nostalgia plays in the continued popularity of heavy metal?
Well, I think that's a really good question. Sorry, I'm losing my voice today. I think it's that I think there's a combination of things. One, when I work with younger bands or just hang out with younger bands, there are a lot of musicians who are young in the rehearsal halls, and I see them and listen to what they're doing and what they're playing, what they're listening to as well. And they've discovered and love the new wave of British heavy metal. They go back to the 80s and 70s and they love that stuff. So these are kids in the 19, 23, 24. So I think they discover it. I also think, like everything, when I was probably in the 80s, I remember in the 80s, there was a big nostalgia thing for the 50s, and there still is, but you romanticize the past, right? So now suddenly, I'm sure back in the 50s, I was like a tiny kid, but if you were playing back then, you'd be like, yeah, well, we have crappy gear, and we got, we don't have the gigs, we don't get a lot of money. There are probably things about it you don't look at in a very romantic way. But as we get further out, you're like, oh my God, look at the cool cars and the poodle skirts, and so I think there's a factor of that there's a nostalgia factor that kind of, glamorizes it.
Okay. 2 more for you. What do you think are the biggest challenges you face as an aging musician? I mean, not only just from the production side, but from playing the drums. As you said, you're a hard hitter. How does that affect into, we're all getting to be a certain age?
Sure, you had to bring up the age. I feel ageism here. I'm going to have to complain about that. No, it's, I think for me as a drummer, like I was just playing earlier and recording, do the new Odds album, and I have another project as well, and I have 2 new projects, St. James and the new Canedy band, which may or may not be called that. So, but I had to, practicing, and I'm playing, and I'm thinking, oh man, you really got to put in more hours, because the older you get, playing drums is so physical. And I try to play at a certain level that I'm happy and comfortable with. And if I don't reach that level, at that point, I'm probably going to back off. So right now I'm playing at a level that I'm comfortable with and happy with. But I think you have to work hard. As a drummer, it's a physical thing. It's aerobic, it's muscular, it's, it just doesn't happen. And that's why if you notice, if you look at some of the older bands, you'll see another drummer on stage. Maybe they bring their old drummer out for a little bit, but when you see the older drummer playing, it's very, very laid back, because that's what happens, I guess. But for me right now, I think it's the mental attitude as well, that I'm just like, it's got to be crushing for me or I don't want to do it. Not to say I did a Colossus album this year with my bandmates from the mid 70s. And that is a very Hall & Oates, but totally different style of drumming. And I love all the subtleties and I love playing that stuff. But as a steady diet, I like hitting my drums hard.
What advice would you give to younger musicians who are just starting their journey in the hard rock, heavy metal world?
Well, I give out a lot of advice. And I wish somebody had given me some of that. I think one of the things when I started studying with Carmine Appice, there was a drummer. I would drive in from Boston and I would be there early because, it's a long drive to Long Island. And it was, so there was a kid who wanted to play, had glitter on his shoes and like sneakered glitter out. And he was dressed for the show. And all I could hear him in the room was, I want to play fast. I want to play fast. And so I asked Carmine about that. And he said, and these were great words I've passed on so many times to young musicians. And it's so true because it holds true for me at my age. He said, if you're playing because you love it, if you're playing because you want to get rich, you want to get famous, and you want to get laid, probably not going to last that long. If you play because you love it, you'll have it your whole life. And, here I am just working on a recording drum track at age 71. So words of wisdom. I think the other thing is you have to learn the business and you have to trust your instincts. Be true to yourself musically. If you don't believe it and you don't buy it and it's not what you want to express yourself with, don't change it. Don't dumb it down. Don't chase a trend because you'll never catch it and then you look foolish. So you got to figure, look 20 years down the road, am I still going to be proud of what we did? May not be that successful, but if you're proud of it, hey, who knows what'll happen. But you don't want to have embarrassing music out there because you sold out. And then you hate yourself and you hate the music, and what good did any of it do you? So stay true to yourself and learn the business. Business is ever changing. So many ancillary income streams. You have to know where to grab them. And now you have to grab the pennies wherever you can. So learn the business.
Fair enough. That was beautiful.
Hey there, I am Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, and I've got a podcast called Drinks with Johnny you're going to want to check out. I sit down with a bunch of different people from all different walks of life, from professional wrestlers to actors, comedians, fighters, musicians, everything in between. I'm just looking to make some friends and have a good time doing it. So if that sounds like something you're into, go check out Drinks with Johnny, streaming everywhere now.